So hello and welcome to another video. Today you're joining me on the Bluebell complex. I arrived here this morning, had a good look round. I did have it in my mind that I was going to fish mallard, but the fish was spawning in there and I didn't feel comfortable fishing. Although, you know, there's a lot of fish in there and they probably spawn in groups and things like that. I just wasn't comfortable with that. So I've come on to San Martin. And this is a new lake for me. I've never seen this water before. I know nothing about it. But I've been here for a couple of hours now. I'm not fishing yet. I've spent my time having a walk round. And to be honest, the swim I'm in is the only area where I've seen activity. There was definitely feeding fish here this morning, in close as well. But having a lead around, it was really hard to find anything close in. There's a lot of candy floss weed and there's Canadian weed, a hell of a lot of it. I suspect some of them bubblers though was tench, because I've heard there's quite a lot of big tench in here. But I have seen carp milling about on the surface as well. I've been trickling dog biscuits in. There's a few that come up every now and then and take something. But I have managed to find some spots now. I'm not going to put the rods out yet, I'm just going to keep persevering with the dog biscuits. But I'm not fishing far out. One of them's fishing 6 wraps and the other's fishing just short of 8 wraps. I'm going to fish 2 rods on one spot. That's a silty spot, that's the furthest one out. It's just short of 8 wraps that. It drops off into a little bit of deeper water there. I'm not sure how deep it is because I haven't plumbed it, but if I was guessing I'd say it's around about 10 foot. And then the other rod, that's still on this marginal shelf. I think it's around 5 or 6 foot there from the way it feels when the lead goes down. I don't want to rip it about too much. I've tried to keep it as minimal as possible, but you know, you've got to find a spot, otherwise you just feel like you're not fishing. Well, I have anyway. I've got to make sure I'm fishing properly. So I've got all that out of the way and I'm going to leave the rods out for today and put them in this afternoon. Now I've got everything marked up, I'll put some bait out in a bit and then later on I can just drop the rigs out back on top of them. But I'm going to leave the area with no lines in today and probably just have a wander about fishing on the surface and things like that. So yeah, as the session progresses, as ever, I'll go through everything with you, what I'm doing, bait, tactics, that sort of thing. But for now, let's get going. So we're coming up to dinner time now, and to be honest, the lake's becoming rather busy. And I've been putting dog biscuits out, and there's only the odd fish coming up, not enough to warrant me casting out really. So with that in mind, I'm going to get some bait in now, so I'm not baiting up on bite time or what I think is going to be bite time anyway. And the boilies I'm going to be using today is the LM94 and a TX1 Tiger Nut. A fish meal and a nut bait, I've got huge confidence in them 2 baits. I think that's a point worth mentioning, you know, especially when you come into a new water or water you've not seen before. Fish what you're confident in. There's no point trying new things on a new lake because you're not going to know if it works. Right, my spod mix then. In here I've got, it's mostly ground up boilies. And I've got some hemp in there, I've got some corn in there. And a couple of handfuls of whole boilies. My idea being is I'm going to spod out and I might trickle a few boilies over the top with a throwing stick. Now that spot out there that I mentioned earlier, I found one that's fishing in the silt and the other's quite a firm spot. Now that one that's fishing over the silt, generally when I fish over the silt I like to make a nice, you know, pungent spod mix, and the only way I do that really is just by adding a lot more food syrup than what I normally would. This is the LM94, which, you know, complements the boilies. So yeah, I've done that, and then what I've done is I've put in a little bit of olive oil. This is garlic olive oil. I quite like that stuff, especially when now the water's warmed up and things like that. Now the silty spot, I'm going to go in with the stiff hinge rigs. Obviously, you know, the lead's going to plug in and I don't want my rig to get lost. Well, not only that, I prefer to fish a pop-up rig over silt. So I'm going to go in with a hinge stiff rig on that. And then on the spot, the hard spot so to speak, I'm going to go in with my standard combi rig. And I'm also going to put a mesh bag on that one because it's quite a nice firm area. I'm not bothered about the the bait getting lost in there so to speak. And because I've not fished here before, I don't know what colour works or anything like that, so I'm going to go in on 3 different hook bait approaches. I'm going to go in on a pink, a yellow and a white to begin with, and if I get a bite, I can switch or see what's working, that sort of thing. And the hook baits I'm going to be using, they're all the TX1 range. I'm going to put out the TX1 Tiger Nut, that's a white, TX1 Squid and Octopus, and the TX1 Banana and Pineapple. The banana and pineapple's yellow and the squid's pink. So hopefully I've got all 3 bases covered there. Well, things have changed dramatically since I last updated you. I put that bait out and I thought I'd go for a bit of a wander and see what's happening. Prior to putting the bait out, Lee passed me, Lee Birch, and he said he'd seen a load of fish in Swan stacked up in the corner. And when I got round here, he was here fishing on top for him, and there was bloody loads in this corner, absolutely loads. He had to go for them. They weren't really taking the biscuits so to speak, but he said to me, it'd be a good shout in here for tonight, Paul. He says every morning they seem to get in here. So that's what's happened. I've dropped onto Swan. I'm in one of the little corners here. There's not so many fish out there at the moment, but they do keep drifting in and out, and believe me, they are some absolute lumps. I think one of the fish that I seen out there was Dave. It was certainly big enough, and Dave was caught a few days ago, and to be honest, it looked like it was sulking, so it could possibly have been him. I don't think that fish is on the cards like when he come out a couple of days ago, but it's nice to see him. But yeah, I've just been getting a few bits and pieces ready. I didn't waste no time. As soon as Lee says that he's not stopping in here, go get your gear, I thought, stuff that. I didn't waste any time at all. Shot over there, chucked everything in the car, come straight round here. I've not put the rods out. I'm not going to until this afternoon. The fish are not here in numbers yet anyway. I just keep putting mixers, I keep putting all sorts. I've just had to nip to the shop and bought some floating pellets, 11mm floating pellets. So fingers crossed, you never know, there's some right chunks in here. But yeah, I'm not gonna lead about or anything in here. It's not fishing well, to be honest. I mean, Dave's the only fish that I know of that's come out recently on bait. Pretty much everybody's been fishing zigs or fishing bait and not catching. It really has been fishing tricky. So with that in mind, it's pretty much fish for a bite. I don't want to fish zigs, so I'm going to go in with solid bags. Similar to how I normally do. Little 12mm TX1 banana and pineapple. That little solid bag rig that I showed you last time. Here's a close-up of that. Yeah, my ever faithful pellets, 2mm pellets. I've got 2 different types of pellet in there. I've got some dynamite ones. To be honest, they absorb the water a lot quicker and break down a lot quicker. and I've got some isolate 2mm pellets in there. They're a lot harder them, and they take a lot longer to break down, and they've got a lot more oil content in there, so best of both worlds really. I've got one that breaks down quickly and one that doesn't break down as quick, so there's still something there. And again, if you've watched any of my blogs before, you'll know that they'll be heavily glugged in beta stim. I absolutely love that stuff. So yeah, I've gone from putting all my bait into that other peg to coming on here and fishing for a bite. But if you'd have seen them fish out here, I think you'd be sat here as well. Fingers crossed. Could really do with a chunk. Well, good morning. It's still early yet, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. I've had a pretty bad night, to be honest. A really sleepless night. I've had a catfish sitting right under my rod tips giving me liners all night. Absolutely doing my head in. A big thing and all. I wouldn't have known it was a catfish at first, but when the liners started, it started just on dark, about 10 o'clock. And I was getting liners on 2 rods at the same time. I'm thinking, hey, what's going on here? And then a bit later, I got a liner again and I shone my head torch into the water just at the bottom of the tips and I could see its tail wagging. I thought, flipping it, that's a right beastie, that is. But yeah, every single time it's been back and forth this margin, it's been giving me liners. But this morning it's a different story. I've received a couple of liners this morning already and they're definitely carp. So it does look like they're going to push into this area this morning. I apologise I didn't give you an update last night, but I was sat chin wagging with the guy next door, and before I knew it, it was dark. But yeah, I got them solid bags out there, first cast on all 3 rods, no disturbance. Like I said, I've not put any bait in, I'm literally just fishing for a bite. It's not really switched on at all, this place, yet. There's not much been coming out on bait that I know of anyway. If people have caught on bait, they're keeping it quiet, let's put it that way. But Dave's the only fish I know of this year to come out on bait. Everything else has all been zigs. I may be wrong there, you know, it is very clicky on here, so to speak. Some people like to keep it to themselves so it doesn't get too busy. But it's bank holiday weekend this weekend and we're just coming into Friday now. I actually booked a bit of time off work to come before the rat race, so to speak. So I'm expecting the lake to get rather busy tonight. All the other lakes on the complex are very busy. But yeah, it's a barbless hook rule on here, so I'm using the Corda wide gape size 6. And the material I'm using for the rig is the PB products again. That's I think it's called silk wire, really good stuff. And just fishing little 12mm yellow pop-ups, the TX1 pineapple and banana, in amongst that solid bag of little 2mm pellets. I just hope they turn up in numbers like they did yesterday, because seeing them fish yesterday, it was just electric. I've never seen so many big fish in one place together. Beautiful morning now. But it really does feel like I've been up like every half an hour. I had to redo the left hand rod, the margin rod as well, because it pulled that out the clip and I was worried that it'd move the rig, and so I redid that. That was about 12:30 I redid that. But to be honest, it's the margin rod that's been getting more of the liners, so to speak. They're all fishing different areas. I mean, what was happening yesterday, the fish was coming round that far margin, you know, the tree line on the far margin where you can see it go around that bend there, over here. The fish was coming in from round there and heading into this corner here, and then coming round and then coming back across. But they seemed to particularly like it round this area, sitting in that area for a lot. And this is the area that gets the sun first. So everything is crossed at the moment. It is a particularly hard venue, this. But the fish that are in here, oh my god, some absolute kippers in here. I think yesterday when I mentioned Dave come out, for those of you that are not familiar with this place, Dave's normally a mid-50 mirror, and he come out a couple of days ago at £54. I believe there's still another couple of 50s in here at the moment. I know the Z fish has gone, but I believe there's the perfect common and the box. Yeah, and they're both 50-pounders. But my knowledge of this lake is not that good, to be honest. When I arrived here, like I said before, I didn't have any intentions of fishing on here. But after seeing that, you know, I'd have been a fool not to. Even if they're not, you know, even if I'm not going to catch one, you just never know, do you? They're certainly getting here for a reason, and that reason's the sun. And I think, you know, if you apply the right tactics, you've got a chance of nicking one. The trouble is, a lot of people go by what they see on YouTube, and for the likes of Kev Hewitt and people like that, you know, they're really, really good at what they do. In my opinion, there's nobody that does it better than Kev Hewitt, fishing all 3 rigs on the same spot. Not one of them spods goes adrift when he's baiting up on a dinner plate. It really is. He's really, really good at it. And when he had them good sessions in here, you know, I think everybody's seen that, and they all come with the same idea. I may be wrong, like, but that's the general vibe of what people telling me, the regulars. The chap next door, I've been chatting with him, he's been coming on here quite a bit. And he's had 5 fish this season so far, all on zigs. But yeah, he says the amount of people that turn up and fill it in's unreal. I'd have loved to have got on Kingfisher, to be honest, but there was 15 on it when I arrived on Thursday. But you know, they're all incredible waters on this complex. It truly is a stunning place. I'll be coming here for many more years. Well, I'm going to have to cut it short because the battery light's flashing at me. I need to change the battery. But I'm going to put the kettle on and have some breakfast. And I'll catch up with you a bit later on. Hopefully something will have happened by then. If the fish do come in numbers, I'll try and capture some of that and show you. Well, we're coming into mid-afternoon now, and to be honest, the fish haven't got in here today. There's been a couple getting, but nothing like there was yesterday. Not long after I spoke to you this morning, I lost a big catfish. I hooked it down in this left-hand margin, and I tell you what, it went berserk. I felt it flick off something in the margin, like a branch or something. And then it took off into the middle of the lake, and it was stripping line, and I mean really stripping line. It took about between 60 and 80 yards, and then everything come back slack at me. I reeled in and it just looked like a clean cut in the line. I tell you, I think that sort of ruined my chances in here because of the disturbance it made. Because at the time there was a few carp drifting in, and I just think it absolutely destroyed the swim. And it's only now this afternoon where I've started to see the odd fish drift back in. But I have been getting a few liners. I think what's been happening, I think they've been coming in quite close, just to where the drop off is. I've just changed my middle rod and just fishing it just as it comes into the drop off, and I've not long had a liner on that. So fingers crossed, and hopefully that catfish doesn't come back tonight now he's had a hook in him. You just never know with them things. There's some right lumps in here. Big catfish. And I think they just push the carp out. I definitely know they don't feed side by side. I've seen it for myself when I was last at Ictus. Your bites would dry up and you think what the hell's going on, and then you'd catch a catfish on your next bite, and then after that you'd start catching carp again. And I can't help but think that's happening in here. But you never know, dear. You never know. They are wise fish in here. They're very pressured. But I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. At least there's still a few fish getting in front of me. Fingers crossed for the morning. Hopefully the catfish stays away. It's coming up to about 4 o'clock. I've got all 3 rods sorted, but I am going to redo that margin rod before I turn in. But that's the only change I've made. I've brought one of them closer in. I'm still going to stick on the margin, still stick on that tree line, and then one just on the drop off. I tell you what though, when you see them fish swimming about out there, every one of them that I've seen, they're all big fish. They're all 40 pounders. There's probably been 5 or 6 fish cruising in and out of here most of the day. I tried putting some biscuits out, but they're not interested, not in the slightest. And then once the gulls find the biscuits, they just annihilate them. But yeah, there's one of them in particular. I know I've said it before, but I'm sure that fish is Dave. It's just bigger than everything else. It's really long. But that's where I'm at. It's been quite frustrating. As to be expected on here, I must say. But I still feel confident. Believe it or not, I do feel confident. I think if I hadn't have hooked that catfish this morning, I was really confident of a bite. I mean, I don't know for sure that if that's why the fish hadn't got in here, but that's what I'm thinking. It could be the fact that my lines are in the water, because yesterday when all them fish was here my lines wasn't in the water, but I've kept everything pinned down. Fishing is like semi-slack, so I'm not, you know, bowstringing across so they bump into the lines and scare themselves. But yeah, last night, all them liners I had last night, that was definitely that catfish. I mean, I see its tail poking out at one point, but it was too vicious, it was too savage for it not to be. The liners I'm getting today are totally different. Well, I shall catch up with you a bit later on before I turn in. Fingers crossed. We only need one bite. Well, I'm just setting the scene for this evening. It's just coming up to 9 o'clock now, so we're about an hour before darkness. And since I last spoke to you, it's been rather quiet. I've not had any indications, but in the last 10 minutes or so, I've seen 3 fish show on that tree line, and they was feeding fish. They was coming up and cleaning the gills, so that's a really positive sign. One of them come up right over where my right hand rod is as well. And the fact that I didn't see that happen last night is a very good indication. And as of yet, I've not been getting plagued by the liners from the catfish, so fingers crossed on that front. Time will tell. To be honest though, them liners started around 10 o'clock last night, just as it was getting dark. But it's been absolutely lovely sat here this evening. The abundance of wildlife on this lake is unreal. Well, the whole complex for that matter. When I arrived here yesterday, I don't know if I clocked it on the camera, but as I was driving down to the gate, there was a little fox running past. And there's been a kite hovering around over the grass area at the back there. There's like a grass area between Swan and Sand Martin. And there's been a kite hovering round there, obviously hunting. And there's been 2 rooks chasing after it. They must have some young in a nest. That was great to watch. I had a kingfisher land on the right hand rod today as well. People say that's supposed to be good luck, we'll see. But yeah, I tried to get my camera, but no, not a chance. I watched it for a good few minutes first before I tried to get the camera. But literally everything, cuckoos in the background, there's been a woodpecker, the amount of rabbits running round. It makes a real nice change to not have a roaring road in the background and actually listen to the wildlife for a change. Yes, it's a truly nice place to be, with some truly stunning fish as well. Don't matter which lake you rock up to here, there's some lovely fish in them all. The lake's filled up now. It looks pretty busy, to be honest. There's only a couple of pegs spare on that far bank that I can see. I'd imagine the whole complex is full now. Since this morning it's just gradually got busy throughout the day. I just pray to God that, you know, them fish turn up here in the morning. That'd be amazing. All the rods are set for this evening. I did replace that margin rod. I put it just a little bit further out to where I see the fish coming in and out of the snag. I've not gone too close because I want to give myself half a chance to land it. The last thing I want to do is lose it if I do get a bite. I'm absolutely shattered though. After being awake most of the night last night with them liners, I am shattered tonight. I can't wait to get my head down. I was really hoping one of them fish was going to show at the back there. 3 in the last 10-15 minutes I've seen. Yes, it really does make a nice change to see something show that's cleaning its gills out. You know, a good indication that they're feeding on something. Well, I am going to leave it there. I think I'm going to turn in. I've had my tea. Treated myself tonight, actually. I had peppers, red onions, chilies, and some veal, believe it or not, all smashed together inside a wrap. It was lovely. So, my belly's full, I've had my cup of tea, and I'm exhausted, so I'm going to leave it there, and I shall see you in the morning. Well, I haven't a clue what time it is, but the rod just absolutely melted off, and I am absolutely shattered. Not the species I intended for, it's a catfish, and nowhere near as big as the one I lost. It's just gone £42, this one. It's quite a distinctive looking one, it's really pale. But it didn't half get the heart racing, and I thought it was close to my UK PB, so I thought I'd give it away, and being as it's here I may as well show you. Oh, I hate these things. And there he is, look. Big old pussycat. If anything, it's just this one doesn't smell that bad. Not usually the bloody stink, but this one is not too bad. We're not going to spin him round. I'm going to slip him straight back. Well, good morning. It's just gone 7 o'clock now. Had a bit of a lie-in, to be honest. I needed it. I had a look at the time after I slipped that catfish back and it was just gone 2 o'clock in the morning. A couple of occurrences after slipping it back, the odd liner here and there, but no savage liners. I've not seen a great deal yet, but if I go by yesterday, I started to see the odd fish drifting in around 8-9 o'clock in the morning. So fingers crossed that there's a couple drifting today, especially with that wind pushing in. The sun is up, but we've got a bit of cloud cover. It keeps breaking through every now and then and causing glare on the camera. I've had a couple of takes trying to shoot this. It was the middle rod that went last night, the one fishing on the reed line. Solid bag again, little 12mm pop up. But them carp are eluding me. With the changing weather conditions this morning now, the wind pushing into me and there being a bit of cloud cover, I've switched tactics on 2 of the rods. I've put them onto zigs. I've got 12 foot out there in front of me and I've put 2 out at 10 foot, black and yellow zig liner. Hopefully we've got enough time to nick a bite before I go. I've not got long left, I'm going at dinner time. I've still left that one in the left hand margin on a solid bag, because the carp, when they do come in, they sit right under this tree line in this left hand margin. They just sit there and don't do anything. It's like a little safe haven for them. But you know, if naught else happens, it's been an enjoyable session. You can't choose what picks up your bait at the end of the day. But if I'd have lost that one last night, I'd have swore down that was a carp. It was totally different to that big one I hooked. That was just a steam train, a powerhouse of a fight that was. And this one was quite slow and dogged really. There was no like really fast bloody jaunts like they usually do. So yeah, once I got it under the rod tips, I was a little bit disappointed when I seen it. But to be honest, it was quite pleasant. Once I got it onto the mat, it wasn't a smelly, horrible thing like they usually are. It was alright and quite unique. It was really light in colour. I don't know if that come across well on the camera, being at night light, but he was very, very pale. I've not had many catfish. To be honest, I'm not keen on catching them. But it's better than nothing on this occasion. Fingers crossed one of them zigs rattles off. Fingers crossed a few fish turn up. We can only hope. Well, I shall keep you updated. Probably an update before I go if not much else happens. Well, a bit of an unusual way of ending the video, but I've had to resort to this because just as I was packing up, the heavens opened. And not only that, the session didn't end well at all. The zig rod rattled off and I lost it. Just a hook pull, nothing I could do about it. It's the risk you take when you fish zigs, and not only that, barbless as well. Oh, I was absolutely gutted. I was sulking a bit, and then you got to pack down and it absolutely pissed it down. But hey ho, you know, it's another place ticked off on the venues to visit, and it's a place I'll definitely visit again. Thoroughly enjoyed it, although it was frustrating, I did enjoy it. With what I've seen, it's not an easy water, so to come away with the result that I have had, I've got to take the positives from that. I shall certainly be back there. So that's me, all wrapped up. I'm about a mile away from the fishery now. So, big old journey back up north again. So if you aren't already, please subscribe and stay tuned. I'll see you on the next one.